On this video, we'll be talking about making cheap healthy meals. You might immediately hesitate to think that inventing or coming up with your own cheap meal ideas is relatively easy, but in a way it actually can be. Very often people have a hard time making meals inexpensively because they let themselves get overwhelmed, thinking that they need to watch every penny that every ingredient costs, or that they're never allowed meat, and so on. Or they're afraid to adjust the recipes they already have if they're just not familiar with the kitchen, so they need explicit instructions when it comes to cheap meal ideas. But really it just takes a small amount of creative thinking to reduce the cost of your meals and to make adjustments to recipes you already have to make those meals much more affordable. When you think of where the majority of your grocery budget goes, you'll probably agree that it's mostly on meat and some produce items. So this is where your cheap meal ideas will start, substituting or eliminating those items or choosing ones that are less expensive. For instance, chicken breasts are usually about twice the price of chicken legs or thighs, so what recipes do you have where you can use thighs or legs instead? Or can you hunt down some new recipes for those rather than relying on frying? Your cheap meal ideas may require some effort on your part, but none of these things are terribly difficult. You can easily reduce the amount of meat you use in many recipes and learn to cook vegetables so that your family is still full despite cutting out the main staple. And by making side dishes that are more substantial, such as stuffed peppers or mushrooms, you're going to be full that much easier and may not even miss the meat in the first place, so your cheap meal ideas mean just adding more affordable options in these cases. Many people turn their noses up at vegetarian dishes, but these make for great cheap meal ideas. Think of what things you eat now that you could easily turn into a vegetarian dish: chili, spaghetti without meat, stew or soup, pot pies, stir fry, and so on. Usually dishes like these are hearty enough that you don't even miss the meat. Other cheap meal ideas simply involve having food that you might not think of, such as oatmeal for dinner or cereal and toast for lunch. You can also have a fruit salad over some cottage cheese or something light. These types of cheap meal ideas are even healthier than your standard lunch of cheeseburger and fries. Sometimes you have to make food yourself in order to save money on it. Prepared foods you get from the supermarket are always going to be more expensive, so cheap meal ideas will start with what you buy. Be ready to do some of your own chopping, dicing, and cooking rather than relying on the supermarket to do these for you. Visit our website for more tips on coming up with your own cheap meal ideas as easy at cooking.foodabouts.com.